Welcome to Trauma Recovery Out Loud, where we talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going in our trauma recovery journeys. Join us and get some insights and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. Let's go.
We're all sitting in silence.
I don't know. I figured, you would start off, here we are today.
No.
The energy's not always that high.
We usually start off with something silly.
We're usually being very silly at the beginning
Yeah,
because we're silly.
Indeed.
that's what we do.
It's what we do.
Gotta
We're
be able to
silly.
laugh.
I see everybody's eyebrows made it to the party.
Yes, very important. My
Yep.
eyebrows can't be absent. They're dark. They can't be absent.
Well, and Mike's too, because he's so Italian. I mean, come on.
Lucky
Look,
I separated the two. Otherwise, just one of it would be there.
No
You
mono.
know what I'm saying?
the unibrow.
No,
the
no
unibrow,
unibrows.
that's the word.
You know what I'm saying?
we know what you're saying.
Anyways,
I secretly have a unibrow, but nobody knows that except, well, I guess everybody knows it
Everybody
now.
knows now
Dang
everybody
it,
knows,
it's
out
Seth.
of the
Here,
bag.
I
Oh,
have
well.
one too. If I don't shave between the eyebrows.
Oh,
Mine
well.
are just
Maybe.
mine are just leaving. I had to do like 3 layers to get this much, so here we are.
Yes, we perpetually tease Evelyn about her eyebrows not showing up to the party because they're so light.
Yeah. I guess I should take my eyeglasses off. Here we are. Oh, wow. Everybody's a blur. Blob. You're all blob status now.
Nice.
Do I need to recap or can we just hop into it?
I think we can just hop right in.
Let's hop
Like a
in.
bunny.
We can all take cues from Rochelle, who's our resident bun.
Indeed.
She's a resident hopper. She hops into
Not
things.
really, but anyways.
Hi. Welcome to our podcast. I'm
Hello.
Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Rochelle Knapp.
And with us we have
Hi, I'm Mike Manerchia.
Mike Manerchia. Woohoo! We talked
Woohoo!
about bringing him on. He's my personal trainer. Has been your one kid is about 7 years old, right?
Yup, I have a 7-year-old and twin 13-year-olds.
Yeah. So I met you when the youngest was in utero. She hadn't
Very
been
long
born
time
yet.
ago.
That was 7 years ago. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I've grown in between, different person from that time.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've been talking about building healthy habits, and we're doing our series is living a good life during trauma recovery. So we've spent oh no, I'm recapping.
Just do it, Steph.
Sorry,
Just do
segue
it.
recap.
in.
Recap
a new-
alert.
It's a new organic impromptu thing. Not
Okay.
planned at all.
Oh well. Anyway, we first talked about why does any of this matter. We then talked about self-awareness and what is it? Self-awareness.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Thank you. And the one we just uploaded today is about building
Build.
better habits, like talking about the difficulties and obstacles and ways to overcome it. So now we're going to actually start building our little library of actual habits. And the first one we want to talk about is exercise. And what
Yep.
better person to talk to us about that is than Mike Manerchia, our local expert on exercise and exercise science and all kinds of wonderful things. He has helped me personally grow as a person, physically, mentally. I tell stories about you pretty often, Mike, that I can come in a pretty bad mood and leave in a pretty great mood because I interact with you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Great segue, Steph. And I love everybody on the show. And I just want you to know that, it doesn't matter where you are. It's always and will be important. And I think fitness in general is really how it implies to your life. And so at the same time, the reason that I'm even a trainer is because I've seen different things in my life that make you more aware of what you do and how you live your life. And habits, are more about being aware of them and I feel that I've seen different ways people live their life, and there's predictable outcomes to it, and you can see certain habits that always end up leading to a specific outcome. And I will say that before me and after me, the things that I praise will always work and have always worked. And there's always been folks researching the areas that I try to be try to master. There's always been people trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, and that's letting people creating purpose with why you would train and why it's good and why it's necessary, and then from there it just gives you a little bit, like, the one thing as a trainer that helps is how often, how much, how often do I spend the time physically in the gym, and what am I doing, why am I there, how do I integrate it at home? How do whenever I think about going to the library, whenever I was like a kid and I studied, I couldn't really study at my house. I'd have to go to the library. And I understand that with exercise, sometimes people just they have to go to the gym, whether it's not having equipment or needing to get away from the folks in their home and they can't do it in the middle of their home, whatever that is. But at the end of the day, when it becomes clear on what you're trying to achieve, then it's easier to, like, have purpose, and then from there, knowing what it is that you need to do to be able to achieve your goals. I know that's a little cliche, but when it becomes clear what you're trying to do, you're aware of what your goal is, and then you're aware of how to get there.
Wow, that was that your mission statement?
No, I mean, I think you know what? The first thing that I wrote down, because I wrote down some notes,
Yeah,
was
well,
quality of life over volume.
let's go back to the original request, which was, who are you? A little bit about yourself,
No doubt.
whatever schooling you've done, how long you've been training, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Why don't
Yeah,
you
so I'm 38 years
do
old.
that bit? Okay.
And so I'm married. I have 3 kids, and I'm in the house that I bought. And so my education really is exercise physiology, which includes exercise science and nutrition. And I was licensed and have been licensed by the American Council on Exercise. And I went through their personal training program as well as their medical exercise specialist program as well. And it's just fed on to more years of diving into what the health sciences are, anatomy, and also psychology, which kind of ties into the kinesiology approach, which is like blending all of those philosophies of movement and nutrition and habits and spirituality and mindfulness and all of those things. And
Yeah.
so I've dedicated my life because I'm passionate about it, because I've loved it. I've always loved it. I've never thought of it as a job. It's always been a passion of mine. And so, yeah, so that always inspires me. People from different, you know, backgrounds and like what they're trying to achieve. All of that is, information and tools to again blend the same idea together, whether you're a professional athlete or you're just trying to, do your chores without back pain or knee pain or whatever it is, go to work. And
Yeah.
so it's always been something that I loved, and I love helping people.
Nice. Well, thank you for that information.
Yes.
Like I said, I met Mike at the Y about 7 years ago. I had a couple different trainers while I was there, and the first one I had, she was nice and everything, but she just wasn't quite what I was looking for. The second one I had, she was great, but then she just left. And she was going to have me come to her home, but that never materialized. So I was kind of without a trainer for a while. Then I saw this high energy dude in the Y working with somebody, and I watched you like 2 to 3 times, and I was like, I'm going up to that guy and introducing myself because I think he's the right person for me.
And she said it just
And
like
I was right. Well, I said that internally.
Okay.
I was doing this in my head.
in her head.
Yeah, and I came up and introduced myself to Mike, and we hit it off and got together and went through a lot at the beginning, especially. And I think for myself, I have found that a couple things work for me in this situation. One is the accountability of having someone like Mike, even though he's not calling me up, where are you? That's not happening. But the agreement to show up on a regular basis is there. It helps me get there, even on the days where I'm like, oh, I'm doing this also in my head. Yeah. So even on those days, and you know, I've talked about this, what you said to me before is you often say, if I show up with only 25% energy, you want 100% of that, which is also extremely helpful because I feel like, okay, well, I can manage that much.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, for myself, you know, with my CPTSD and depression, because when I met you, Mike, I was still depressed. And of course, I was starting to get to know the anxiety parts. But I had carried major depressive disorder with me my entire life. And I was diagnosed at 18 with it. And it just kind of followed me through several therapists. I was being treated for it with medication and, you know, going to therapy and all that. It was really hard to even want to like exercise or go to the gym. But I found as I started going to the gym, I started to actually physically feel better and mentally feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So I've found that there's, you know, they talk about it. There's a boost you get. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So, you know, having someone like Mike to work with has really helped because of the positive attitude. Because if it wasn't you specifically, if it was somebody else who was a little more grumpy or a little more pushy, I probably wouldn't stick with it. Anyway, I know I'm like blowing your horn a whole lot here, but I just love working with you. So Rochelle or Evelyn, do you guys have anything to add to the reasons why exercise helps you?
Yeah. I'd like to also, I'm going to grab the horn from Steph. So since Mike is here, I know the first time I saw him now, I also deal with CPTSD, a certain amount of depression and everything. And I just remember thinking, dang, he's happy. Like, and it was infectious. And so we would come, Steph and Rochelle and I used to come every Wednesday and work out. I think we did a couple of days initially, then it was just Wednesdays. And, you know, I'd be kind of looking for him. So when we were able to have him come and do a mobility class at our martial art, I was really looking forward to it because I had never worked directly with Mike. And I can tell you to this day, at least once a day, I'm doing 90-90s and some of the other mobility exercises. And it's really helped me so much because although I really enjoy doing exercise and I find a lot of good like YouTube videos and things, and there are certain ones that I really like, but that area was not being addressed, you know, in the hip area. And, you know, in order to kick well and to be able to do the stances that we do in our martial art, I found that mobility piece was really helpful. And so I keep going back to it. And I won't do it at the 6th grade dance.
It was seventh grade. It was seventh grade dance.
The awkward positions he had us in. He's telling us, don't do this at the 7th grade dance. So,
but also make it weird.
Because exercise is weird.
And I keep going back to those because they're effective.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it works, and plus the three of us ladies, we're in our mid-50s. So, you know, we have to keep working it so that things will work. So yeah. I'm really grateful
really your
for
entire
that.
life.
Yeah.
Yes, we agree. Definitely. Rochelle, did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I guess it's my turn now to toot the horn.
Okay, pass the horn to Rochelle. All right, toot it. Go for it.
I got to work with Mike for a while last year. I want to work with him again so badly. I just can't afford it right now, unfortunately. but I do remember things he's taught me, and I'm so thankful for those things because I can do them to help myself. They're very, like Evelyn was saying, they're very effective. They make a lot of sense. And I think like he gave me hope that I didn't have for my problems with my hip and my knee. I know they can be helped by the things he taught me. And so I've been coming down to the point where I know I have to start doing things on my own because I can't afford to meet with him right now. Even if I could, I still should be doing more anyways.
Yeah.
And exercise, it's such a weird thing for me. I'm gonna try not to take this too long or make this too long. But for me personally, exercise is a weird thing because I love doing it, but it's so hard to get started.
Yes.
But once I get
That's
started
true.
and I get into a routine, I love it. Like I really do love exercising. So that's what I'm gearing up to do next in my fitness health journey.
Well, go back to our last episode and watch about what we think about building better habits.
Yes.
We just did that one.
Mhm.
That's right.
So Mike, can you give us sort of an overall general reason or reasons why everyone, doesn't matter whether you have CPTSD or not, should be doing some sort of exercising?
Yeah, no doubt. And thank you very much for the nice words. And also, I think the common language there, or the common thread, you could say, is that whether you are, you know, not somebody with bodybuilder goals, or you have other aspirations, as far as like how you want to express your body, um, financial situation, it really doesn't matter. The point of it is, movement can be and should be involved. And I think a lot of it is just trying to identify what it is that these everybody has the same body. Okay, I know this is weird and it's hippie to think about it this way, but you are a species and you're a predictable species, and that means you move in predictable patterns, and your body was built to move. So no matter what your circumstances are in your environment, it's imperative that you understand the body that you are in, because everybody lives in the same body. And the
Yeah.
way that you are trying to express that body, it can get a little convoluted. It can get a little bit like overwhelming with the mass of what's popular. And just because it's popular, and just because it's, you know, seemingly like the only achievement in life is the aesthetic look, it'll change your perspective on why it's important. And so I feel that if you're gonna say, I mean, quality of living is like one of the biggest things for everybody. But like, if you think about all of your systems in your body, your organs, your muscle tissue, your muscles themselves, your skin, your bones, your cardiovascular system, like your blood vessels and everything, they all respond positively to movement. And of course, there is an overdoing of anything. And so,
Mhm.
in general, what you want to be able to try to do, and this is something I try to convey to most people, is that your body has different systems, or different like ways you can intentionally move, right? So you can move slowly, you can move fast, and you can move like with power. And so, again, a lot of it is more or less, um, in general, just getting activity, and whatever activity that you're getting, you can then base off what you should add based upon what activity that you're getting. So if you're walking, that's great. But if walking is painful, it's important to know like why it's painful and what things that you could do to alleviate those pains. But if we're talking about in general, and you could always look up like what the recommendations are, but in general, it's about 150 minutes of like cardiovascular activity and 75 minutes of intense or vigorous activity per week that they'll recommend that you have. But then that also doesn't get to down to each person and like the specifics of each person, because then you have you have like general movement patterns, and it's exercise is about variety. So like at the end of the day, beating yourself down and doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to help you. And this is why, like, somewhat understanding the components of exercise science are helpful, because it just in general gives you ideas that you can work towards. But at the end of the day, understanding basic patterns like a squat, a lunge, pushing, pulling, rotating, carries, hinges, those types of categories are important to, like, understand a little bit. And so with that in mind, it's a long answer, being that there's a tons of reasons why it's important, but there's also a lot of options on how you can start performing muscle action and just general activity. And so at the end of the day, though, variety is going to help every person. And so but at the same time, you have to be intrinsically motivated to be able to, you know, go after a goal. And sometimes too, the goal isn't very clear. But at the end of the day, general movement is a starting place. But then listening to your body is something you do continuously and something you can do all the time. And so it'll give you a reason to do it, but then also too, you kind of just are going to the very next thing, and and then in that way you create a toolbox, you create a base, and then it becomes autonomous. But at first, when you don't know it, it's not.
Yeah. For a lot of my adult life, I did not really exercise much. I did do some basically cardio type stuff in my 20s, doing a lot of like folk dancing. And then there were long periods of nothing. And then I noticed, because I had this epiphany one time when I was 28. I had been in a car accident the prior December, and I hit a horse in the middle of the night in the middle of the road in Amish country. Totally messed up my right trapezius, my neck, my shoulder, everything. Just totally messed it up. And I went to PT right away, and it was just kind of aching all the time and whatever. And I went to Creation Fest, and I worked on the stage. I helped build the stage and do a variety of things. So once the stage was built, for whatever reason, I volunteered myself to get underneath the stage and yank this giant cable, a lighting cable, while they were trying to string it under the stage from place to place. I volunteered. I don't know why. But something I got out of that experience was the movement made this feel better. That was my first real epiphany about how, movement can really help my body, because I have injury after injury after injury, varieties of injuries, car accidents, what have you. And the more time I spend, moving parts of my body and stretching and strengthening and what have you, the better physically I feel. And the better physically I feel, the better my mood is. Which is supportive of my, my journey to work through my trauma issues, anxiety, and what have you. So, so I feel like, Mike, what you're saying is really helpful for people to know. You don't have to be a pro. You don't know you don't have to know what to do exactly. Just know that it's good for you to move.
Just start moving around, and then you can kind of
start moving around.
Yeah.
You've been in this body, and you know more than what you're willing to accept. Sometimes you're like bored or annoyed more so than like taking action. Like, just getting started is the hardest thing to do, or thinking about the just exerting yourself or sweating or like making start to, like, you have to think about, all right, I gotta change my clothes now, or I gotta, like, and it doesn't have to be this like super formal thing all the time. And like,
Yeah.
and I think that's important to remember, that you don't have to break what you're doing in your day either, and that it's going to be a part of your day, but that there are things that you can add that can be a flow of your day that just make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I know. With me, I had spent years basically being on my feet all the time. I was a stay-at-home mom, raised my kids, homeschooled my kids. We did a lot of hiking. We went to the Y a lot. I loved the break to be able to put my kids in the the babysitting thing and to be able to go and work out. But then I got a job about 3 years ago. Where I do editing, which is great, but I'm sitting at a desk all day. So I found, I get into doing whatever I'm doing, and then I start, oh man, my hips are starting to hurt. And it's like, how long has it been since I got up, So, I mean, that idea of, continuing to move, I was like, man, I got to plan this somehow to put movement into my day because I can't just move around all the time like I used to. So then it's like, what can I do? So there's a stairwell not too far from my desk. And sometimes I'll go for a little walk all the way up the stairs, all the way down the stairs, sometimes skipping steps. And and I find, you know, I, just a few minutes. And I try to get up every hour now. I don't always because I get so into my work. I think maybe I should set an alarm, but moving, you're right. I mean, it has made such a big difference. And then I'm able to do my work better. I'm not hurting as much. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think there's some mental clarity that comes with exercise. Like I sometimes feel clearer in my head afterwards.
Mhm.
Like I said, I can come in like that in a bad mood, and my mind will become way clearer. That also happens during martial arts classes.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that, but then that's pretty physical too. So,
That's movement too. So,
yeah.
yeah, Michelle, do you have anything to add to what we're
Yeah,
saying?
I was gonna say that for me, exercising is meditative. It's also very
Mhm.
emotional. I know you guys will be shocked by this. It's also very emotional for me too.
What?
Michelle getting emotional.
Emotional?
I have found myself crying when I was working out before, and I didn't know why. I know it's probably because of my PTSD.
I've done that.
It seems to release emotions that I'm not really aware of. So it'll be interesting once I start again how that's going to play out. Since I'm trying to get in touch with my emotions now more so.
It'll be like when I started with Mike and I was just crying all the time.
Great.
Gotta let it
I won't be
out
doing that.
or express
I
it
was
somehow.
thinking about going to a gym again, but maybe I'll wait on that. Anyways,
Well.
but yeah, I was actually today I was thinking about it, like how much I miss that. I love the movement. It does bring my mind into focus more, like, and there's things I want to do with our martial art that I haven't been able to do because I haven't been exercising, and I know I have to. And yesterday I was in a great deal of pain. My back was hurting quite a bit. My knee was hurting, and I'm like, I have to do it. I don't have a choice anymore. Like we talked about capacity before, and I really am at that place where I have to find the capacity to do it because there's no going back. I'm not going to get better. It's only going to get worse from here. And I don't want to end up like people I see at my job that are in wheelchairs or not, well, maybe not, walkers or whatever. And that could happen to me because I do have serious knee problems and hip problems and that are pretty painful. So
Yeah.
it's definitely in my mind for sure.
So Mike, the goal of oops. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Or was there a gravity surge
really
just then?
fast view of my sweatpants. Don't mind that.
Don't mind the sweatpants. Okay. So the goal of this, the main goal of this particular episode is to connect the dots between what we've been talking about, which is exercise, and how it helps somebody with trauma issues, specifically because we want to encourage people like us to really consider starting to move in some way, take walks, go to the gym, get into dancing, martial arts, whatever it is they want to do. But there are benefits that are directly related to supporting our mood, supporting our growth, helping to manage anxiety, and other problems, because what some of the problems we have are dissociation, a disconnect between the mind and the body, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, depression, executive malfunctioning. I don't know what to call it. It's not an actual term. Our executive function don't function, basically. Being overwhelmed, flooded with emotions at times. And, what we're trying to accomplish is we want to feel good enough to be able to continue to grow in our trauma recovery journeys, so that we can make some headway and reduce all those symptoms over time to something manageable, so we're not constantly in a high state of alert and constant panic and whatever.
Yeah.
And exercise is one of many things we can do to help alleviate that. We're sort of trying to create a suite of things that we're recommending to people. And I think the exercise component is a huge component.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons.
Agreed.
But you're the expert, so let's talk about how exercise can help boost your mood and support your recovery, even if you're like recovering from alcohol or drugs or anything, how it can support that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's highly emotional thing. Movement in general is an emotional thing. And so, but there is all the science that shows improvement in dopamine and endorphins.
Endorphins.
Endorphins is the technical term, but endorphins is now spreading the nation. So serotonin levels, all those things. And believe it or not, those are all chemicals that are released during good and bad things.
Yeah.
So at the same time, it is association. And when you, sometimes it's hard to associate a training and it also being a positive experience. So it's really important to, whenever you're doing something new, to have it be a positive experience, because you are more likely to then do it again. And so when it comes to going through something stressful, going through something traumatic, exercise has always been something, for me, definitely, but also for every person, that it's proven to help you, like, compartmentalize maybe the problem better, and maybe lower your maybe you're stressed out from kids, or you're stressed out with your boss, and it allows you to then maybe make a calmer, wiser, more composed decision, and it just makes you more resilient as a person. Like, if you make your training difficult, in the sense that it's progressive, it's difficult based upon you and what you can do, and each time you're a little bit better, or you're improved, or you're stronger. Not everything's an infinite linear line of progress. It undulates, it goes up and down, but at the same time, when you consistently allow yourself to release that stress and that tension, and instead of allowing things to build up and create more, a mountain now of a problem, rather than it being a small bump, it just makes it makes things a little easier in your life, and it makes problems seem a little easier, because you've learned to challenge yourself, and you've learned to heal your body, because it's not always about kicking your ass. Like, that's not really always the goal. Like, it should also be like, you're going to test yourself, and it's good to do that, but you can only really push your limits every so often. And so this is where, just in general, light activity, doing things to alleviate shoulder pain, back pain, neck pain, foot pain, whatever the issue is, that also has a positive chemical releases in your body. So it doesn't have to be super heavy exerted work. And that ties into, we could talk about it even later, or even just briefing it a little bit, where you segment how you train. and the different types of training intensity and why you would only train at the highest effort when you are fully recovered and adapted and have created some base. And that whenever you're getting started, your goal isn't to do your absolute best. And that goes the same way when you're going through something hard, and
Yeah.
how you can use it as a crutch and you can use it as a therapy that you do yourself, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. Um, so, um, so yeah, it could really be helpful in a lot of areas.
Yeah, something we learned from talking to a trauma informed therapist was how people in during traumatic events are not really in their body. They're disconnected. So their mind's somewhere else and they're not really thinking about their body. They're not really connected to what's going on if they're feeling pain or whatever. So the point of what we were talking about at the time was how teaching self-defense to, let's say, people who've experienced various kinds of assault is good for them in a somatic sense because it helps them to connect to their body, which is really good for recovery, because part of the problem is when I'm dissociating, I'm not really present with myself.
Yeah.
And I might ignore pain. I might ignore problems, which leads to making unhealthy choices or just ignoring things until you end up in the hospital for some reason. So it would seem to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would seem to me that exercising, whatever way you're doing it, is the same idea. You know, you're deliberately thinking about whatever body part you're using to do whatever it is you're doing. I am a stickler for myself for form when I'm in the
Yeah.
gym. I also have you watching me, which helps because I don't always know 100% that I'm doing it right. But it's really critical to me to um, do it right because I don't want injury, but also because I want to get the benefit. But that makes me think about my body. That makes me connect to myself in a way I might not otherwise. So, do you have any thoughts about that, Mike?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to recognize too, like if I'm looking at somebody and I look at movement all the time. I see movement all the time and I see it in a way that maybe other people don't see. I see it very like through books and through, again, comparisons of like ideal, and they're really, and that is a structure and it's a framework, but it's not always a like 100% necessity for each person, because each person is kind of framed differently, built differently, and a lot of it is like, does it feel good to you, and also at the same time giving certain cues so that it also feels balanced, because the other piece of like exercise science, or a critical piece, is the mechanical part, the biomechanic part, and that helps with like knowing your center of mass and understanding just balance in general, and that helps. And muscle engagement does matter too, but also too, just as you're saying, as you're performing it, you're performing it for a specific task, and that does matter. It does matter how you do the movement also. And so it doesn't have to be perfect, but also too, it's a teaching tool, and also it does therapy, but it also can teach you like what doesn't feel good, and so why doesn't that feel good. And so at the same time, it's like constant self-correction. But for me, I'm seeing it like Legos, okay? Like the Lego movie, all right? You see the master Lego person that sees the possibilities of it all,
Yeah.
and so that that is just a different way of thinking it. But at the same time, you can still equip yourself with some generalized tools that will help in a therapeutic way, and also help get through your day also, if you're just trying to just make a mention about while I'm at work and taking little breaks, even there, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so multifaceted, we'll say.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of background noise somewhere. Who has a lot of
Yeah.
background noise? Is that you, Mike?
Is it
Is
maybe
that
my
your
kid?
kids? Okay. I'm like, what is all that? Sounds like a stampede. Rochelle and Evelyn, do you have any
Yeah, let me
thoughts
tell, let me
about?
tell them to chill for 1 sec.
Okay,
Okay.
go for it.
You know, I was thinking about that. We just talked about mindfulness and being self-aware, and that's one of the things I really like about exercise. Like today, I was doing some weight work, and you know, they were talking about focus on the bicep, and then it was one that came up and then down, and I was thinking about my muscles, and in that moment, I was fully in my body. I wasn't thinking about what was going to happen later, what I was going to have for breakfast, what I have to make sure I leave for work on time or whatever. I was able to just focus on being in my body, the way it felt, the way my muscles felt, whether or not I needed to go up or down a weight. And I really like that because I do have a tendency, if I get triggered, I tend to dissociate. And knowing that I could come back into my body, so to speak, um, exercise, of course, does that for me. So, among other things.
I was thinking about when we were going to the Y 2 times a week together, and Stephanie was teaching us how to have good form, and the difference I felt when I was doing it correctly as opposed to incorrectly was usually pretty big. There's a pretty big difference between the two. And there was one, and I was kind of had a little bit of attitude about it at the beginning. I'll admit that. But once I understood,
Now you tell us.
Uh-huh.
once I understood why and the benefit of good form, not just for safety reasons, but for your physical well-being, it made so much sense to me. And there was something Stephanie said that stuck with me. Now I can't remember. Something like,
Aw,
if you
Stuck with you. It's in there somewhere.
something like, when you feel like you can't do more, but you can do more, like that's when you
Oh.
should really do it. Like that's when you should really push yourself. When you
Well,
feel like,
what the one trainer told me is that your mind wants to quit before your body does.
yeah,
Needs
something
to.
like that. Yeah,
And that to me was my brain saying, stop, stop, stop,
Mhm.
stop.
yeah,
But my body can go just another couple, moves longer.
right.
So she was telling me that so that I would keep going and not quit right away when it got hard.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Now, and I think being older and having like back issues and stuff, even now, more so now, form is so important. So I don't further injure myself, because that would be easy to do at this point. And I wouldn't get the full benefit of whatever I'm doing. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about form in the dojo a lot because how you move determines a lot of times what your power is. So it's important to focus on correct form for different reasons.
yeah.
But anyway, another thing I wanted to sort of touch on was this other mood boosting benefit is confidence building in meeting goals and personal records and things like that. Because Mike has set up weights for me to lift off the floor. Sometimes he'll tell me, sometimes he won't. But he'll say, I want you to go pick that up one time. And I'm like, I look at him like this. Right.
The look.
And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I can do that. But I've learned to trust Mike enough that if he says he thinks I can do it, I'll go give it a try. But let me tell you something. The first time I lifted 150 pounds off the floor was a really emotional moment for me because it's something I wanted to do. But also, we had worked to get there. And it was a real boost in my mood to actually get there.
Mhm.
I gave Mike a goal that I wanted to have that's sort of abstract. I'm not going to say what it is, but I gave him this goal and I said, this is what I want to be able to do. And he also has other goals in mind for me, I imagine, besides the ones I give him. But when we reach these sort of benchmark moments where it's evident that all this effort that I've been putting in is actually paying off, it really does help me feel so much better. The benefit of that is so much greater than I imagined it could be. Do you have any ideas and thoughts about that, Mike, as far as like goals and personal records and confidence boosting and that kind of thing when it comes to helping someone meet themselves in whatever they're doing?
Yeah, I think that was beautifully stated, and I'm glad that you are able to express yourself in that particular way because it coincides with like how you should cycle your training. Not every time is going to be your PR in your lift. And a lot of it, movement comes down to the skill. It's coordination. And so the best way, and this coincides with what we were talking about form and technique, because it is all skill and coordination based. But at the same time, you know, the cycling of giving your absolute 1 rep max, but then also too dialing it back and doing a weight that you can control through its full range. It's also imperative for repetitions because, your body has different muscle fibers, and those fibers, you can act upon them differently. And if you never allow yourself to perform those different actions, then those muscles and those fibers don't need to be they don't need to be turned on. And there are problems that come from that this is where you then have muscle imbalance, and muscle imbalance is the easiest predictor of injury. And so it's hard to determine though, when is it that I'm going to do my PR on my lift? But then in between, how do I get myself ready and fresh enough so that I can prepare myself for the next time to do that? And like, this is where the variety and the diversity of it comes in, because to be honest with you, only a handful of times a year are you going to have the energy to be able to do your absolute best lift, 1 rep max, because of its effects on your nervous system. Like, people just look at movement as the muscles that are in action. The muscles get all the glory, and muscle size is the only thing that gets desired. And so the truth of it though is like, there are other intangibles, there are other parts of it that are equally as important that get benefit from it, including your bone density, and we've talked about even mentioning like the circulation and blood flow and all that. Um but truthfully though, getting the variety and just having at least like lower level intensity is really like something you want to maintain. But then don't be afraid to challenge yourself. But then also too, don't worry about going overboard. And then the other thing I'll make mention about, like, how do you start, right? It's just the same as like getting past a wall or plateau. Let's say you've been training for a while, or a comparison to somebody who hasn't trained at all. Your next step is based upon what you've previously been doing, because we're highly adaptive creatures. We adapt to our environment. And so that means that we will adapt to our exercises. That doesn't mean that we just perfect them all of a sudden. You adapt and you might not recover enough, and now you're injured and you feel injured, but you still push yourself through a workout. Well, that's not necessarily the workout for you then, is to just force yourself through the workout. That's where it's important to then know some other things to do that aren't machines or a barbell or dumbbells, and maybe you actually just need to lay on the ground and foam roll for a while. And why is that important? You know, that's a whole nother thing on what
Mm-hmm.
that's also activity. That's deliberate activity, but it
That-
does something
It's
different. And
It's an
so,
activity that's not my favorite.
right? And it's painful. Like, this is
Very
why like
painful, yes.
movement is painful, and it should be. It's emotional, and it should be. And it's good, but at the same time, it needs to be respected and having awareness about it and consistency also. Make a quick mention about what consistency even is. Consistency is really just listening to yourself and doing the things that help you consistently. So like consistency isn't just blindly showing up and like, you know, dragging yourself through the mud every time. Because like the one thing I mentioned also was about having a positive experience with it. So if you're
Mhm.
just beating the hell out of yourself every single time, well, you have willpower and you're clearly a resilient person, but also that tank of energy is only so big.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
when you learn that it's a cycle, and something that I'm tagline or that I'm trademarking is a microcycle.
Do we
And that-
spell Mike MIKE
yeah.
dash
Row
RO?
cycle.
Yep.
Micro cycle.
And in physiology, things are phased in micro and macro cycles of training and so when you go through a microcycle, each time you do it, it's a little bit different because you can't work on everything. So you work
Mhm.
on things that are within reach. And then you have wins. You know, you do it well, you accomplish it. But the whole point of it is get more skillful, get more coordinated, and then it translates to the things that you do. And now you've created a passion for it. And so in opposite to like bodybuilding where it's just aesthetic only, it's just the scale numbers and it's just the how do I look compared to other people,
Yeah.
you'll never be happy.
Right.
It'll never be enough, and it will always be egotistical, it'll always be vain, and it'll always be something that it's extra. It's extra in my life. What
Yeah.
I do, the way I promote it, it is an essential. It is a requirement.
Yeah. I think a lot of people think of exercise as just extra, that it's, especially if you want to join a gym or hire a
Mhm.
trainer or whatever. I think a lot of people think of it that way, but yeah, I think of it as at this point in my life, it is essential
Yeah.
to my mental health as well as my physical health. And I can't not do it because if I don't do it at all, I'm going to hurt. I'm going to get depressed. Again, excuse me. My voice always does this about this point in the podcast. The frog approaches and enters in. Anyway,
The invisible frog.
yeah, no, it's not invisible. It's in there.
Okay.
You just can't see
You
it.
just can't see it.
Anyway,
hidden. Hidden.
I'm also, an instructor in the martial arts and a dojo cho. I've lead a few people, and I can't do that job if I don't function well enough physically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really critical to me. I want to be really good at my martial arts, so training is really important. I want to be mentally strong enough to withstand a really bad week when
Mhm.
things are happening in my head. So training is essential to me. Do you guys, Rochelle and Evelyn, do you guys have any, we're approaching an hour, Mike, so you can have an hour with us.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any thoughts on connecting, physical exercise to trauma recovery that you want Mike to talk about?
I've already mentioned how it does help me be more mentally clear for sure, as well as physically feel better overall. And understanding aside from my physical problems, I think there's a need coming. I have a need for that mental clarity to come back from working out and being physical again, because I really miss it. I really miss that, how it helped me before, and I wasn't as in touch with my trauma and emotions as I am now. So I think it'd be way more beneficial. I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to necessarily talk about. Can't think of anything right this second though. Unless you can expand on that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about something you mentioned earlier, Mike, was about the body systems like cardiovascular, et cetera. Maybe you could touch on how the physical activity helps the body, function better. Rochelle mentioned mental clarity. I'm sure there's a connection there between not just the somatic piece, like just focusing on something else for a while or focusing in your body, but is there things happening within you that help you get to mental clarity if you're struggling like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the same time, again, we talked about how emotional that it is, and it can help you when you are, feeling overwhelmed, right? From that standpoint. But then
Mm.
there's different modes of exercise, right? So like a walk is going to be different than you lifting your most in a on a lift, which is going to also be different than you jumping on a platform. All right, but those are three different muscular actions like that. Your muscle fibers contract in a certain way, but it's not really a muscle fiber. It comes from your brain. All movement comes from the brain, and like
Mm.
so that has a direct stimuli, like immediately from the brain down to the body, which is why the mind the muscle connection is important. But like
Yeah.
that can also be overdone because fluid athletic movement is mindless. It's free. If you see a sprinter, they're not thinking about contracting their quads and their biceps while they're running
Right.
True.
a relay. So
Yeah.
like the intent part just helps with the connection part, and like when you actualize it, and I didn't make
Mhm.
that up, you can look that word up. Potentiation, right? So it's more or less you're trying to the reason that you're trying to contract your muscles are to one, make sure they can contract, because if they can't and it hurts, well, you have a problem. But then also so that
Right.
you can actualize it and use it for something. So
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
again, squeezing your glute medius in comparison to your maximus and your minimus. The reason that that's important is because there could be an imbalance that you have that's causing back pain. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your back
Mhm.
isn't probably the problem. Usually your butt, which also coincides with your knees. When your knees hurt, it's usually hip, ankle related, hamstring related. It's always something else. So
Uh,
just in
Yeah.
general, there's a framework, but at the same time, as we touched on, and I was saying earlier, is about variety, how key the variety is and the diversity is, because it'll help your psyche so that you're not doing it's the same thing all the time, but it'll also
Mhm.
help you stay motivated because if you keep getting better at stuff, it feels good, and you're gonna want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
keep doing it.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Evelyn, before we have to wrap up here?
Yeah, I was just thinking about I've mentioned this before, but how being physically fit and strong can help protect the body, whether you've had an injury or to keep preventing an injury. Um,
That's
when
important.
I was in my actually my fittest ever, um, I had a spontaneous lung collapse, not related to working out or anything. It revealed a pre-existing condition in my lungs, and it's one of the as I talked to one of the lung doctors, who was also very much a proponent of exercise, he didn't come right out and say it, but he really stressed how important it was that I was so physically strong, because I almost died, and I went from being very strong, very capable to being very weak in ICU. And, I was able to recover from that. And my body was stronger going into it. And I'm very thankful because I don't know that I would have survived otherwise. I mean, it's hard to say because here I am, but I couldn't help but think, how important it is to have that already in place because you just don't know what life's going to throw, and I want to be able to recover as quickly as I can.
That was a great point.
I think I'm going to go ahead and sum up. Summation alert. Anyway, just a little bit on the last bit that we've been talking about. Well, actually, I'll just sum up from the beginning. Okay. So Mike's, first major point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that movement is just good for you in general. It's good for everybody, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you've been doing, no matter what you haven't been doing. And it's going to help you feel better in general, physically, mentally, emotionally. You don't have to be, doing extreme things. You can just find something you like doing and just start doing it to help yourself, help your mood, physically feel better. Is that a good, fair summation of point one?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Then we talked a little bit about how when you have trauma, there's a whole bunch of things that are going on all the time, physiologically, mentally, emotionally, that are tripping us up, like anxiety, depression, panic, dissociation, etc. And the act of exercising itself will first connect our minds to our bodies, which is good for us somatically. Also, it'll boost your mood because of all those endorphins and stuff.
Real science right there.
Real science.
Endorphins.
There's mental benefits to the work, and I think you mentioned, it's emotional to do this. Rochelle said I might be crying if she gets connected back to you. Well, I spend a lot of sessions sitting on the floor crying, doing whatever Mike was telling me to do. But it's also happy emotions. It's not just sad emotions.
Right.
Like, I do feel happy. I recently had a personal record I didn't know I could do of lifting 185 pounds off the floor one time, one rep max. And the mood benefits of that was amazing.
Yeah.
I felt elated. Like, it's good to bring things up to, a happy place on a regular basis. It's good to have things that give you confidence. And, if you can't walk very well, if you can start walking and start increasing your ability to walk further and further and further until you can walk a mile and 2 miles or whatever, or lift 5 pounds, whatever it is you're doing. It's an amazing moment to realize you've grown and you're doing better.
Yeah.
Is that fair for point number 2?
Great summary of point 2.
All right. And we were just kind of summing up here at the end about how, having cycling through things and not sticking to just one thing and not focusing too hard on a certain thing, but sort of having a variety of things that you can do. I personally, I'm gonna make a plug here. I think it's really beneficial to have a trainer, someone who can watch you and encourage you and give you things to do and have a plan for you, because I personally wouldn't know what to do exactly. At least certainly not at the beginning. I might know now better, but I still feel like I don't know really how to help myself move forward. So it's helpful for me to have Mike. But the key is to do something and to not become fixated on things. because I think getting fixated on things makes you go like this, mood wise, and that will put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Is that a good summation of point 3?
Yeah, it's perfectly well stated.
All right. Is there anything at all you want to add to the end of this? We've got like 2 minutes left.
Listen, I would like to come on the show for more things, and we can even like get more specific about maybe specific movements one time, or also too like why the most important thing isn't something we even talked about, and that was
what's that?
That was sleep.
Oh, yes.
Now sleep is like the great. So I'll save that for another time. But I did want to just run through really fast, like for just to kind of like briefly say, like humans were built to move. So if you think of like why it's important for every person, your body, your Homo sapien body was built to move, and every single major system is affected by movement in a positive way. Protects your heart and blood vessels, keeps your joints, tendons, and bones healthy, which is important, and improves your mental health as the main key point of all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
want
definitely.
to add quality years to your life, then you want to just add some movement because you were built to move and you're built to handle it. Just don't worry about taking giant leaps. Little tiny steps are good. 5 minutes of something is good. And if you kind of keep that mentality of even just a little bit is fine. And as Steph mentioned in the very beginning, if you got 10% of your energy, man, you can give me all that. And that might take you 90 seconds. All right. Well, then tomorrow you'll have double that amount to apply.
Yeah.
So just have that
Amen.
mentality.
All right.
stuff.
So do you want us to put your contact information in the description of this particular episode so people can find you?
Definitely
and
can like
contact you.
Facebook and Messenger, and you can for sure like send me an email if but at the same time I welcome anybody to chat with me about what they're trying to achieve, which I already know what it is, but getting more specific about like what's ailing you, just as an outlet, just as you like get some sort of maybe clarity on what to do and why it's important. If that is something that is helpful, I really want everybody to be able to have a good connection with movement. And at the end of the day, however you take that information, whether you like hearing someone else tell you that, or you'd rather watch a YouTube video, or you'd rather whatever it is, however you take the information, I highly encourage that you learn a little bit more about yourself and you get some basics down, and it will benefit you. And so, yes, I encourage anybody to contact an expert on how to better yourself. And so, I love I love talking to people and helping people. So the more, the better. And it can be done. You can overcome situations. You can be the change in your environment rather than succumbing to your environment. And so it will be a movement that takes over. Microcycle is and will be a trademark name.
All right.
Excellent.
All
Well,
right.
we will put some links in the description. You guys contact Mike if you want to and talk to him. Maybe if you're local, you can meet up with him or something. Who knows? So I think we've come to the end, and now it's time to do our dance. Mike, will you join us?
Sure. Do you actually get up and move?
No.
No, well,
Okay.
sort of.
All right.
I mean, we
It's
kind
that-
of do this.
It's kind of like this. It's almost like the Will Smith. It's like, you stay right here. Right here is where you stay.
Yes.
Right
This is
here.
your
Go.
home. This is where you
This is
live.
your move.
This is where you live. This is the like, comment, subscribe,
Or
share
dance.
dance.
Okay.
So we do this with the fingers.
Like it,
Push the
share it,
buttons.
comment it.
So like, share,
Here,
subscribe,
push
do
all
all
buttons.
the do all the things,
All the
push all the
things.
buttons.
This is moving too.
That's right.
Well, thank you for
Well,
having
Mike,
me on the show.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
thanks so much
Thanks for
for
coming. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining us and talking to us and helping us to better understand more about how movement helps in general, but also people with trauma recovery, trauma needs. So I really appreciate you being here. And I'm sure Rochelle and Evelyn do too as
Yeah,
well.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. So yeah, we can talk more if there's another topic we can pick your brain on. We'll definitely have you back. It was fun.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Rochelle Knapp.
Have a good whatever.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you got some food for thought and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. See you next time. For more episodes, you can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Comment, like, and subscribe to spread the word and help the channel grow.